Now we are going to discuss one of the most important concept in not just React but the entire front-end development, right? Handling events and what are events, because your website is no more a static website now. It is a dynamic website which user can generate lot of events, and you need to capture that events, you need to digest those events, and you need to generate some meaningful actions out of those events, right? So capturing all of these events and attaching handlers to them, let's say when user clicks on something, when user scrolls something, when user plays something, based on all of these events which browser emits, you need to perform different actions which keeps the user on your web page, or maybe you have to collect the data from the user in different formats so that your business will have a lot of leads, right? So in not just React, but understanding and dealing with event is very crucial in any programming or any library or any framework. Okay, and today first I'll show you some light, throw some light on the events in JavaScript and what exactly it is, right? So as you all know, or you might have already heard, that JavaScript is an event-driven programming language. It means everything is an event in JavaScript. So you look everything in events, you feel everything in events, and you try to observe or try to capture everything in events. That is what event-driven programming language is. So every other action of the program is determined by the event. Maybe as a system, you are emitting that event, or maybe you're capturing the event of some other person, but everything is an event to you. For example, user interacts with a page and clicks on a button, right? Maybe on that button click, maybe you're navigating to some page, or maybe you're reloading the same page, or maybe you're updating the data from the backend, like in a cricket or football game, you open the website and you want to see the latest score, right? Sometimes you have to reload, or sometimes website itself automatically updates the data. So whenever user generates an event, you capture that and you attach an event handler to it. Let's say reload. So on the reload event, you're capturing the event and you're attaching a handler, and you're executing a piece of code which gives the response, and ultimately you're displaying user his action. So based on the action of user, you're reacting to it and giving him whatever he intends to, right? In this fashion, events in JavaScript are very crucial because it is the core event-driven programming language, both on the front end, on the back end, both in ReactJs or Node.js or anything, right? So you have an event loop for that, and internal mechanisms, all complicated mechanisms are actually in the form of events itself in the JavaScript. But as a browser, it gives you access to lot of native events. So whenever you're doing some actions on the browser, you need to, somebody has to help you that, okay, when I'm clicking on an element, that event should do something. At least you need to know that somebody has clicked, right? So all of such important actions which can be very useful to us, browser has built a module which will give us all of those events, or fire those events when user does that. Like let's say right now I'm clicking on the slide. So on this slide click, then I have to do something. Maybe I have played an animation. Similarly, browser also captures all of these events from the user and it emits, so that when I click on something and you fire an event, maybe it is useful to you to do some actions. Like right now I have implemented animation. So capturing the events is done by the browser. You just have to attach an event handler, and there are a lot of browser events actually, but I have listed down one of the famous, or maybe which you will be using a lot in your programming language or while you're building your application. So one famous event is on click. So it is fired when you click on the browser, right? So whenever you click, you press the mouse button, the event is fired. So based on that, maybe you can navigate, you can hover, or you can move to another page, right? So this is one event handler. And then we have on change. So this on change event handler is attached to the input field when you're entering a form, when you're filling a form. So on the form, on the input field, you are attaching this event. So whenever user changes the text on the input field, you get access to that change inside. So it means you will understand that user is typing something. If you have observed, there are a lot of places where you type your username and automatically in the below it displays this username is occupied. You didn't even click a button, or you didn't even ask the browser to say, hey, check if the username is available or not, right? Because browsers or websites doesn't want you to do an extra action and later come to know that you have failed. So you are just keep on typing and suddenly it says, okay, this username is not available. So you are just retrying again. So all of that is possible because of the onChange event handler. Whenever you are entering some text onto the browser or in the input field, that event continuously fires and they make an API call to the backend to check if the username is available or not. So that is this is one of the very useful event and which you'll be using a lot, especially in React. And the on focus. So whenever you are moving or whenever you are focusing your mouse or when you press tab, so it goes and focuses one HTML element, right? So whenever that HTML element is focused, maybe you have to show some pop-up, maybe you have to do something. It's just that on focus of some element, maybe you have to bring out the color, pop out or zoom in, something of that sort, right? So on focus is one of the main event which you might be using a lot on the images or on the videos which you are playing, right? Then you have on blur. Similarly, the opposite of on focus, the on blur. So when you remove your focus, you have to undo the things whatever you have done on the on focus. So on focus and on blur are contradict. I mean they are contrast totally. Then we have on key press. So whenever you are entering the keys on your keyboard, right? So when you press the enter key, sometimes you don't have to go on clicking the submit button with your mouse, just fill the form and press enter. So it automatically attaches a event handler and it itself submit the form. So I submit the form. I have two options. One, I can click on the submit button, but why do I have to move my hands from the keyboard and go to mouse and click? So I can give user a useful action like when he types on the keyboard and he can simply press the enter and I'll do whatever is done by the moving mouse and clicking on the submit. So it is all easing down the process of user in different events. And this is very essential because the easiness on your website actually affects the time the user stays on your website, and the longer the user stays on your website, the longer he sees your advertisements or longer he sees your products, and then there is a chance that you make some business out of it, right? Similarly on scroll. So when you're on scrolling, you can attach some event handlers maybe to ease down the process or whatever. So whenever some scrolling event happens, whenever you're scrolling, you can use this on scroll and maybe you can pop out the important content in your browser so that user doesn't miss when he's scrolling very fast, right? And in the same way on submit. So this is a very frequently used event. That is when the form is submitted, you have to make a call to the backend, or maybe you have to validate the form. Is the all fields filled correctly, or is there any null field? You see this a lot, right? This is a required element, you didn't fill it, or this thing doesn't matches the requirement. So whatever. On submit is one of the frequently used event. And then we have on load. Whenever you're reloading the page, there is an event emitted that is on load. When the website is completely loaded, maybe you have to show some pop-up saying sign up into my website, some offer. Usually you see this a lot. When you reload, after the entire web page is loaded, you see a pop-up saying this is the today's offer, please book the tickets or whatever. So on load event is also very useful event on the websites. And on copy. Nowadays you are copying some text on the browser. So what exactly you are copying? So all the machine learning data, which is very important, like what user is copying on the articles, why is it exciting him? So it collects all the user journey and what he is doing on your website, and maybe you analyze the situation of the user. Okay, this user and trying to copy more JavaScript stuff from this article. So this I can show recommendations on the JavaScript so that he'll come to the website again and again. So lot of use cases, guys, just not one or two. And on pause. So this is there are a lot of events on the media which we do, but on pause is one event where if you're on clicking on the on pause, like Netflix or Amazon Prime or anything, they display the complete details of the picture, like who is the hero, whatever, when the movie was released, so that it is giving some information about the movie and it is still catching your attention, and not just when you click the pause button, it doesn't show the pause button in the middle. Instead, it shows all the information on the UI, so that you feel again you start and you don't move away from the website or the video, right? So there are a lot of events, hundreds of events based on your use case, based on your requirement. You can pick any event and you attach an event handler. So you add an event handler to on-click. Let's see, all of those will happen. How can you assign event handlers in React? So this video is mainly focused on the React events. But React also, underlying the React is written in JavaScript, so it only leverages the events which are present in JavaScript. But these are the main events which we are going to use a lot, right? Maybe you are going to use a lot down the line. Yes. Then one of the important thing which you need to understand about events in general, right? So any event which happens on the browser, it has three phases. Okay, so let's say there is an element div. Okay, there is an element div and you clicked on it. Okay, so every event in JavaScript has three phases. One is capturing phase, the other is target phase, and the other is bubbling phase. Let me repeat again: capturing phase, target phase, bubbling phase. So first is the capturing phase, then is the target phase, then the bubbling phase. What does this mean? So when you generate an event on any HTML element, the first phase is capturing. So even if you attach an event handler over here, the event gets started from the main HTML document. So it starts from the document, it travels down each element in the hierarchy. So document, HTML, body, div. So what is the parent of div? Body. Parent of body? HTML. HTML, document. So whenever you generate an event on a target, and the target here is div, the event gets started always from the document, then it enters into HTML, then body, then div. Okay, so this is called as capturing phase. So in the capturing phase, event propagation moves down from the parent to the target, and in the target phase, it is actually executing on the target. So it means if I click on the element, but you attach event handlers on any of these, then also your event handler will be executed. So this can be really useful when you want to attach an event handler. Let's say there is a lot of list items. Okay, even when the list item is clicked, I can consider that it is a table clicked. So there is a table with 10 list elements. Due to this capturing phase, I can capture all of the events at a top level and execute. So no matter where the event is clicked in which list element, instead of placing the event handler on the list element, each list element, I can put it on the table body, so that no matter where on which list element it is clicked, because there are hundreds of list elements, you can place the event handler on the table body, and in the capturing phase, somehow it reaches the table body and you can execute your event. So this avoids you placing the event handler on each list element, which might go to hundreds and thousands, right? Because the more number of event handlers, it means the more number of functions you are giving to the JavaScript engine and more memory is being occupied. So using capturing and bubbling phase very well can actually affect the performance of your browser a lot. So trust me, when you reach to medium or in advanced level of front-end development, the main focus will be how you are dealing with events. So as a simple example right now I have said, so you don't have to place event handlers on each list element. You can actually place event handler on a table body, right? On a table body. So that event will be captured in the capturing phase whenever the event is clicked on the underlying elements or the bottom children elements, right? Similarly, the target phase. Target phase is placing the event handler exactly on the target. So where I am clicked. So it means if you are not placing any event handlers on in the capturing phase, nobody is going to call you. It's just that it is the default behavior of JavaScript. It is the default behavior of JavaScript that it comes from capturing phase to the bubbling phase, comes down and goes up. So you can use any of these phases, and how you want to handle the event, it is totally up to your requirement, but it is the journey of the event. So it comes down and then it goes up in the same path, right? So in the target phase, it is the event handler is reaching the element. So till where? So it is coming down and it is going up, right? So this point is called as target. So first the capturing, then the target. Once the target is reached, then it starts bubbling up. Okay. Now why is it bubbling up? So either you can attach your event handlers in the capturing phase, or maybe in the bubbling phase. Now let me give an example. So same example. So attaching event handlers on the parent element. Where is it? Is it a good thing to do in capturing phase or bubbling phase? So let me give an example again. Let me repeat my question again. There are capturing phase and bubbling phase, right? In the capturing phase, no matter where in the bottom, whatever bottom the event occurs, it always starts from the top, right? And in the bubbling phase, it starts from the bottom and moves up, right? Now you can alternatively switch to capturing phase and bubbling phase by passing a boolean. So when you attach an event listener, you will say, okay, this event listener can act in the capturing phase, or this event listener can act in the bubbling phase. That is in the core JavaScript. Okay, now my question is, just think, when is it good to use capturing phase and when is it good to use bubbling phase? So the previous example which I have mentioned, that is, I want to emit an event or I want to handle an event whenever there is a list element clicked. Okay, so in this, what if I place my event handler in the capturing phase? What happens? What if I place my event in the bubbling phase? Let's discuss both of this. So in the capturing phase, the event is placed over here, right? So this is the parent body. So any of the div elements are clicked, you get this. But what if this journey is so big, so deep? So it means there are 20 parent elements of this body. So it means the event is traveling all of this, though it needs to be triggered only on the one point. The event is traveling all of this journey, right? And it means, why do you want to unnecessarily travel the event from top to bottom? It is because you have mentioned that you will capture the event, and that's the reason why event is coming from the capturing phase, right? This is one case. What if you do the same thing in the bubbling, right? So you are just placing the event at the top of the parent, right? So it means that whenever the event occurs in any of the parent, it immediately captures on the next cycle itself. So it doesn't need to travel back all the 20 elements. So you can stop the event delegation at this point. So you always have the control to stop the event at one particular place. You just have to call stop propagation. So there is a function. So on every event object, there is a function e.stop_propagation. So if I click e.stop_propagation on the document, then it doesn't travel to the bottom in the capturing phase. Similarly, if you put the event e.stop propagation on the bubbling phase in the body, then it won't go up. So what is efficient now? So in our example of the table, adding event listener, adding event in the bubbling phase on the event element body is very good, because the event has traveled only till the body and you have stopped propagating it. So no other elements are disturbed. So thinking all of this, what is efficient, is not an easy task, and you don't come across these situations in the very basic applications. Once you start building complex applications like video playing softwares or anything, in all such phases, this concepts of capturing and bubbling helps you a lot, and you need to understand this capturing and bubbling very well. Okay, so in React, by default, every event is bubbled, so there is no capturing phase in the React, only bubbling phase. By default, all the events are bubbled, so please note this point. Okay, now we will discuss how events are handled in the React. Okay, how events are handled in the React. So React actually created a synthetic event. So what is synthetic event? It is a wrapper around each JavaScript or browser event. So it wrapped all the browser events and created a high level event called a synthetic event. And why is it doing so? Because again, the compatibility. Each browser has different way of handling the events. Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Internet Explorer. So to abstract out all of these, again, why do I need to write a code which is specific to Safari? Why do I need to write a code which is specific to Chrome? So React, being a library, it abstracted out all of this and it created the synthetic event on top of all of this. It means it is wrapping all of the browser events, which is now a cross compatible. So React events are cross compatible and all of them are in the bubbling phase only. So they, by default, React always has the bubbling phase. If you want to capture any event in capturing phase, there is alternative we'll discuss. But how React delegates the event from the DOM to the app. So see, when the event happens on the real DOM, first it delivers it to the virtual DOM. So now all the events are occurring or emitting on the virtual DOM. Virtual DOM emits the event to the browser. It delivers it. Virtual DOM delivers the event to the application, and application builds and modifies whatever handling it has to do, and then it travels back the same journey, right? So DOM to virtual DOM to deliver event. So when it is coming from DOM to virtual DOM, then React has wrapped the event object, whatever event object the DOM is giving to virtual DOM, it is wrapping at that place and delivering the actual event to the application. So now React has some useful functions, more useful functions, because it is wrapping, right? So in that sense, React events are synthetic events. It means they are cross compatible. You don't have to worry what is the underlying browser now. They have abstracted out for us. And by default, all the events in React are in bubbling phase. You have an alternative way where you can catch in capture phase, right? But there are two events which doesn't have the capturing phase. So by default, all are bubbling, right? So these two events on mouse enter and on mouse leave, these doesn't have capturing phase. Okay, so in React, and in React, the event names are in camel case. So you are not, in the previous example, you have seen that event names are in normal casing. There is no camel casing, but in React, all the events are camel case. Okay, so that is one important thing which you need to remember. Now we'll see how to attach the event handlers and what is the event object inside the React, and how you can see the capturing phase and the bubbling phase in React. I'll take a simple example and try to explain it to you how the event delegation happens from top to bottom and bottom to the top again, right? Yes.